After Odd Couple, you know, what I think is important in this life is to figure out if you're happy or not. And if you're not, do something else. Well, my partner, Jerry Belson, was not happy with television. We had a big hit in Odd Couple. Not even such a ratings hit, but we won a lot of Emmys and nominations and this and that. But he didn't like it. So he said he didn't want to do it anymore. And I started to think about, I liked it. I liked situation comedy. And I remember Carl said, write about what you know and this and that, and you get more ideas. And I wasn't a divorced man living in an apartment for 5 years with Odd Couple, but I remember, Hey Landlord was about my youth, and I said, let me try that another way. And the Happy Days saga is, I'm told, but never at the Academy here. Some young 18-year-old saying, what's Happy Days? Where is that? I have to find that. Two men who were influential in my career. One was named Michael Eisner, became big in his field. And the other was Tom Miller, who was a great mentor to me. Well, I shouldn't say mentor. I think in life, if you're a creative person, you need somebody to come with you who says how great you are. If you're a person who can't say how great you are yourself. I was never good at blowing my own horn, as they say. Because my mother and father said, don't do that. So, and Penny was no good either. But I could blow Penny's horn and my sister Ronnie, but there was nobody to blow. So Tom Miller came along and said, you're very good. I'm a producer. We'll be great. And so he and Michael Eisner wanted to do this show of nostalgia. And I was working on a show of nostalgia because we all realized that if you got a nostalgic show on the air, the reruns wouldn't look bad. Everybody was coming on with these reruns, and they looked silly, a lot of them, because it was outdated clothing, everything looked silly. So we said, let's get nostalgia. And so we started, I was working on a movie idea I had, and they were working on it. So they came to me and said, we want to do I Remember Mama. I Remember Mama was a show on TV that was a very sweet show about, it was Norwegian or Swedish people running around. Their name were Laws and Hellstrom and things like that. And they said, you could write them. I said, in the Bronx, there were no Lawses. You didn't have them there. We had, we had Milty and we had Vito. We didn't have no Lawses. So, well, you'll do. And then they said, you could do that. And I said, no. I said, I can do the 50s. I meant to do it with Hey Landlord. Let me do it now. The real 50s. We'll make a little outfit for the characters. Let's try the 50s. And they said, okay. And we did a pilot. And it was called New Family in Town. And Marion Ross was in it. And Erin Moran was in it. And Ron Howard actually was in it. And it didn't sell at all, and they put it away. And like typical television, a lot of television is derivative. So luckily, George Lucas did a movie called American Graffiti, which he used my pilot to cast Ron Howard. He looked at it. Fred Roos was his casting director. And they found Ron. And then a great show on Broadway came out called Grease. And immediately TV said, look, the 50s are in. We got one of them. And they looked on their shelf, and there was New Family in Town. And Eisner was he ran. He was at the network. And he said, come on, we'll do this. In those days, if you made a pilot that did not sell, they put it on Love American Style. They threw it on during the summer because they wanted to make their money back. So New Family in Town went on Love American Style. And nobody rose up and said, a great show. They went, let's see that one about the tuba again. We like that one. So I think Dissolve, Grease comes out, American Graffiti comes out. We think, let's look at this. I'm getting drunk at the party. Let's have a 50 show. So I redid the pilot. And this time we wrote 3 scripts because, a lot of people like to know the process. What, you just sit down? No. We wrote 3 scripts. I got 3 stories. We wrote 3 different scripts. And then the network was going to pick one to be the pilot. So we're very brave in those days. And for some reason, the censor went out for a cup of coffee because we did show called All the Way about a girl who supposedly went all the way. Of course, she didn't go all the way, but you knew that at 8 o'clock. But still, that was what it was about. And we cast it again, and Ron Howard came back after a lot of didn't want to be on it. And the only thing he wanted was he didn't want to be a perennial kid. So he says, if I go on the show, you'll let it progress. I'll go through high school, I'll go through college, I'll get out of college. I said, yes, if we go that long from your mouth to God's ear. And we did. And he came on, and we had Tom Bosley instead of Harold Gould was in the original. And Erin Moran was still there. Marion Ross was still there. We brought in some characters. And then Michael Eisner went and saw American Graffiti. And he said, we need a gang. They got a gang in there, those bad guys. We need bad guys. I said, we got to cast 1,000, Mike. We got no bad. There's no room for it. So finally, I maneuvered around, and I remembered guys in my neighborhood. So I said, I got one guy who'll be the gang. The rest will come and go. One guy's the gang. And we created this character, Fonzie, who was originally called Mash. We were going to call him Arthur Masciarelli, but MASH was the name of a show, so the nickname MASH wouldn't work. So Bob Brunner, who was one of the writers, came up with the name Fonzarelli. We needed something we could have shorthand, and that was Fonzarelli, and we put him in. And I had done, see, a lot of times people don't understand, you try something here, it doesn't work, you try it again over here. I played a character in Blancy's Beauties. I acted. I played a guy who worked in the casino in Vegas who never spoke. Just wore dark glasses and walked around, scared everybody. And it almost worked. The show didn't work. So I said, let's do that again. We get a guy who don't talk. It's always scary when a guy doesn't talk. So Arthur Fonzarelli was originally written just to point and do gestures and say very little. And I always remember one of my favorite actors was Gary Cooper, who said mostly yup and became a gigantic star, which amazed me. So I said, he'll say little. And that's how we put this show together. And the original writers on it was, on one of the episodes, was Rob Reiner was on. He was a writer on our staff. We did a staff job there, and it went on. And nobody else, and that was the first show I did pretty much created by myself. Nobody else really was creating it with me. And it went on, and slowly but surely did all right. Same thing happened to that as did Odd Couple after a few episodes of one camera. And it was beautiful. We shot it like a little movie. And it was terrific. And the network got nervous. Now they went the other way. Originally, we were on this. We got to be filmed, they said. Then they said, all right, you can do 3 camera. Now, I'm doing film, and they want to do 3 camera now. So we did it 3 camera after a while. Because, that's for laughter. It was because it was a show in which I was trying to create the fact that people had heroes in the 50s. The heroes were there, and you cheered the heroes. As the years went by, there was not a lot of cheering anymore. People didn't cheer anybody. Mostly they tried to say what was wrong with them, or they'd find some National Enquirer thing what's there. So the heroes all had feet of clay because there were people coming around with axes chopping at the clay. I grew up, we had heroes. Joe DiMaggio was a hero, Lone Ranger was a hero. So to me, Fonzie was always a combination of Joe DiMaggio and the Lone Ranger. And the show went on. Fonzie represented the gang, and slowly but surely people found it. And it became a double standard show where the kids thought it was about them and the parents thought it was about their past. And so they watched it together. And part of my intention was to get a show that everybody could watch together. My little kids couldn't watch Odd Couple, really. They didn't understand it. But once you have children and you take them someplace, you find that you're a little bored. So I figured, do something about it. I mean, I used to take my kids to the movie and watch a raccoon lick a duck, and that was I would doze off. I didn't like to watch that. So I said, there must be something we both must like. And so Happy Days seemed to fill that gap in the family situation of watching TV together. Now everybody has their own TV. There wasn't so many TVs then.